Hello, and welcome back to Apex Math. We are working on learning our division facts, and we are currently on lesson 3. Again, make sure you do these lessons in order and that you have taken our multiplication lessons by Apex Math as they do follow those lessons. Okay, so we are going to today work on learning how to divide by 4 and 5. So we always start with reviewing our multiplication fact. So let's start off with reviewing times 4. So when we did our multiplication times 4 rule, we learned that our rule was double and double again. So if we had 6 times 4, then what we would do is we would circle the times 4 because that's the rule that we're using, and we'd underline the 6 because the action is going to be on the 6. And again, we spent a lot of time learning about doubling, and in this case we need to learn to double the 6, and then we're going to get that answer and double it again. So the 6 doubles and becomes a 12, and then the 12 doubles and becomes a 24. And this is easy enough for students to do in their head. Again, the 6 to 12, we work hard on making sure they know all of their single-digit doubles. And then for doubling 12, they just have to remember that the 1 doubles to become a 2, and the 2 doubles to become a 4, and that's how we get the 24. So we have 6 times 4 is equal to 24. The only one that's kind of hard that we work on is if we do the 8 times 4. And for that one, again, same thing. We're going to do circle the times 4, underline the 8. And for that, we use a little song to help students remember what happens when you double 16, because that's the only doubling fact that's not easy to just double the 2 digits like with 12 to get to 24. So we ask them to try to sing this little song over and over again until it sticks in their head. It goes like this: 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8, 8 and 8 is 16, 16 and 16 is 32. So sing that enough times, they remember that 8 and 8, when we double the 8, it becomes 16. And without too much trouble, students have been able to remember that the double of 16 is 32. So that's what we get here. And that will be helpful because now we have to be able to go backwards. So we have to be able to say, what is half of 32? So they have to also remember the song is, oh, half of 32. That was the one that was 16 when I went backwards in the song. So let's go ahead and look at our division fact. So we're now going to divide by 4. And remember, when we multiplied by 2, we doubled, and when we divided by 2, we cut in half. So if we're multiplying by 4 and we're doubling twice, if we're going to divide by 4, we're going to cut in half twice. So cut in half, and then we cut in half again. So we have to cut a number in half twice. So let's do an easy one first. Let's do 24 divided by 4. So again, we're going to circle the rule here. So the rule is dividing by 4, so the action is on the 24. So I want to take 24 and I want to cut it in half. Well, that's pretty easily done, because I just need to take half of 2 and half of 4. So half of 2 is 1, and half of 4 is 2. And then I get 12. And then once we get to numbers like 12 and 16 and 18, Your student already knows that half of 12 is 6, so 6 is our final answer for 24 divided by 4. And let's try another one. Let's do 16 divided by 4. So if we do this and we use our divided by 4 trick, oops, I moved my frame around a little bit. Let me move that back. There we go. All right, and so our action is on the 16. So we're going to take 16 and we're going to cut it in half. So students automatically know that half of 16 is 8. That one's an easy one. And then half of 8 is 4. And for some students, keeping track of how many times they have to take half by writing this out may be helpful at first. Eventually, they should be able to get to doing it in their head. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. And we'll do one more here. Let's do that 32 divided by 4. So for this one, we're going to circle divided by 4. Action is on the 32. Here they need to remember, oh look, 32 isn't easy to take half of because that's an odd number. So I have to think, what tricks do I have to take half of 32? And remember, oh, I had that little song that I learned, and half of 32 was 16. So 32 became 16. 16, half of that becomes 8. So 32 to cut in half twice gives us 8. So that's how we're going to divide by 4. The next one we're going to look at is our 5s. So let's start off with multiplying by 5. And when we multiplied by 5, we used a clock. And we worked on, and this is a good skill to teach time as well. So we worked on linking the numbers in the clock to the multiplication facts that we were learning. So if I have 5 times 4, the trick that I'm going to use here is the 5s trick. So that's the one I have to circle, which tells me the action is on the 4. So I ask myself, if I have my big hand pointed at the 4, how many minutes past the hour is it if the hand on the clock is pointing on the 4? Well, 4 matches up with 20 minutes past the hour, because remember, this is 5 minutes past the hour, 10 minutes past the hour, 15 minutes past the hour, 20 minutes past the hour, etc. So if we do another one, if we do 8 times 5, again, we will circle the 5 because that's the rule we're using. So the action is going to be on the 8. So this time I'm going to put my hand over here on the 8 and say, well, how many minutes past the hour is it if my big hand is on the 8? Well, instead of counting all the way around, if the student doesn't automatically know, we can always use the 6 as our starter, because most students know that that's the 30 mark. It's 5:30 or 6:30 if the hand goes straight down. So that's 30, 35, 40 minutes past the hour for 8, for the big hand to be on the 8. So what happens when we do division? So let's take a look at that. So if we're dividing by 5, now we're doing the same thing, we're just doing it backwards. So if we have 45 divided by 5, we're using the divided by 5 rule, so the action is on the 45. So I ask myself, if I have a clock where would the hand, what number would the hand be pointing to if it's 45 minutes past the hour? Well, 45 minutes past the hour is when the big hand points to the 9. So that means the answer to this problem is 9. Let's say we have 15 divided by 5. So again, we're looking at using the divided by 5 rule. The action's on the 15. So if I'm 15 minutes past the hour, where is the big hand on the clock? Well, the big hand for 15 minutes past the hour is on the 3. So the answer is 3. So it's just using the time and the clock backwards. So it's really good to get your kids to associate each of the numbers in the clock with the minutes past the hour. It helps their multiplication facts, their division facts, and their ability to tell time. So we have now completed we did our lesson, and we have done our divide by 4 and our divide by 5. And we reviewed times 4 and times 5. In our previous lessons, we have done divided by 1, divided by 2, divided by 9, and divided by 10, and all their multiplication counterparts. So before you go on to the next lesson, you need to provide the student with practice. And as usual, I always suggest mixed practice. It's never good to give your students just a sheet of divide by 2s or divide by 5s. You want to mix it up so that they're constantly having to think, which rule am I applying and how does it apply to this? So I would make sure all the divided by 4 facts are on there. All the divided by 5 facts are on there. Most, maybe 75% of the times 4 and times 5 facts are on there. And then I would stick in maybe 25% of the divided by 9s and the divided by 10s, since we've just done those, and 1 or 2, and the divided by 2s, and maybe 1 or 2 of the divided by 1s and your multiplication ones as well. So that they have a mix of all of this, where the majority of the lesson is focused on the new stuff, the majority of the questions, but they're also still being asked to work on these old facts in the same practice sheet. And at this point in time, since we're getting up there and doing more and more numbers, you may have to provide them with 2 or 3 different sheets at different times of the day before you're ready to move on to the next lesson, because we're asking more and more of the student. But this is how you get mastery out of the student, rather than just saying, oh, we're ready to move on, we're ready to move on. You always want to make sure that the student has mastery before you move on to the next lesson. Well, thank you for joining us again here. We appreciate you coming in, and we will see you at our next lesson at Apex Math.